And we did this project to answer actually one simple question. How can we increase our B2B brand preference in a specific market that was relevant to us? We can do a lot for our end consumers, and believe me, we try too, but ultimately we have the business to business channel as our gatekeeping mechanism. So we have to convince the professionals around this world who are selling hearing instruments to sell ours, because they most of the time make the decision what brand to sell. We end up with a vast amount of information that is really, really hard to prioritize and cluster against each other. So you're kind of lost, 1,000 things that people have mentioned regarding your product. And I think that's probably something that most of you have experienced a lot of times as well. The second thing is that these statements oftentimes also are not very concrete. People tell you what they want, but there is a translation that still needs to happen for you to make sense out of it all. And then the last question, we wanted to make sure that whatever we find is actually applicable on a broader scale and to hopefully the full market, so we do something right for the majority of our customers.
What we try here in the hierarchy is put all of the findings that we have, the hypothesis that we have into one structure, and then to kind of have one overview and one guiding framework for our exploration.
Concrete value metrics came into the equation. And that was one of the things that we also learned from Vendbridge. We tried to do our interviews in a way that we can in the end create what we call a value metric. And a value metric always consists out of an expected result, a unit, and a context. Vendbridge did an interview. We were listening on the Zoom call, having our cameras off and just trying to dig in and understand everything that was going on. And then we did an interview. And we, of course, exchanged on what we had learned, what we saw, and what we felt could be better. After a few Vendbridge interviews and a few of ourselves, we were then confident that we would be able to, actually do most of them ourselves. And I think the last 8 or so, we also ultimately then did with still the help from Jan and Beat as note takers. It's the actionable attribute and the measurability attribute is what really made this so valuable for us, because suddenly you are in a situation where you are able to understand in a good way what really is the critical aspect of something. And if you did your job right, you can actually now just start to work. And as long as you improve on that job that you identified and the measure that you have for it, you're doing something right. That was what we at the very least didn't really have in the other research that we had done so far. But the question was, how do we validate that then? What are the dimensions that we should be looking at? And what are the value that we then create with these statements ultimately in the end?
So there's these 46 value metrics, each placed in one of those buckets. And what this basically means is if a certain point is at a certain place, which we want to highlight here, is that point there is for a large percentage of the 150 people that we asked, very important, but already fulfilled.
To have a very high sound quality within the instruments that I'm selling to my customers is one of the things that is really critical to all of our customers. However, it's already solved well too. And that tells you a lot, especially in our company. You have to imagine somebody that tries to do sound, right? Imagine glasses. You're buying a pair of glasses. You have now reached, or we as a society have reached a point where I expect those to work. That they will actually help me with having perfect eyesight again is not at all a criterion again. Maybe I buy special, lenses so that I can sit in front of the PC all day without being exhausted by that. But that's kind of a given. So you have to do that right. But your USPs, what makes you actually buy this pair of glasses, they appear to lie elsewhere by now. And that is something that we increasingly experienced in our industry as well. So let us sum up again, right? What was the problem? We had 1 million insights from 1 million sources, and probably not really 1 million, but a lot, which were unconcrete in some situations. Things like, we know that 10% of our consumers are really innovative. Well, cool, but what does that mean really? And some of them also weren't validated on a broader scale. With this research, we were able to frame what we wanted to look at, and that was in that case help a customer for a specific market segment of ours in a country which is most relevant. It helps a lot in defining your USP, so that's where it helps us currently a lot.